Holla, they want to know, if you were deserted on an island, what is one thing that you would take with you?
15 men in a boat, and all of them have dicks.
Well, they men.
Yeah, but all men got some little funny looking stuff look like pussy. That's why they are queer. They are queer.
So you would take 15 men on a boat.
Hell yeah. And fuck them one at a time and throw them in the river.
Well, I'll be down. Okay.
Dad can say good morning to everyone.
Good morning, niggas.
Now, the global population is projected to hit an all-time high on Tuesday, reaching the landmark figure of 8 billion people. That's according to the United Nations. The world's population has doubled in less than 50 years and is set to keep rising. Our medical editor, Fergus Walsh, has been examining what the figures mean for us all.
Our planet has never held so many people as the era of huge population growth continues. Back in 1800, there were around 1 billion people on Earth, and it took over a century for that to double. Then it really took off in the 20th century, reaching 3 billion in 1960 and putting on nearly 1 billion each decade after that. It reached 7 billion in 2011. We're now set to hit 8 billion people on the planet. So what about the future? The UN projects there'll be 9 billion people by around 2037 and 10 billion by 2058. Global population could peak at around 10.4 billion in the 2080s and then plateau before declining in the next century. The United Nations says more than half the projected population increase to 2050 will be in just 8 countries. Half of them are in sub-Saharan Africa. Indeed, the total population of this entire region is set to almost double to 2 billion by 2050. Remember, it includes some of the world's least developed countries, many already experiencing food insecurity. India and China are the world's most populous countries. Both are home to more than 1.4 billion people. But India will overtake China next year. China's population, along with scores of other countries, is set to fall sharply later this century. Now that's because global fertility is declining dramatically. Back in 1950, women gave birth on average to 5 children. That has since more than halved to 2.3 births, and it's set to fall even further. But there are so many people of childbearing age now, that explains why the global population will keep rising for much of this century. Another reason is we're living longer. Average global life expectancy reached almost 73 years in 2019, up almost 9 years since 1990. COVID actually pushed it down by nearly 2 years, but it's projected to keep rising. The world's population is also aging. About 1 in 10 people on the planet is now 65 or older. By 2050, it'll be almost 1 in 6, so that will put a greater burden on the young. Our growing population also puts increasing pressure on resources, food, water, energy, as well as infrastructure. Huge issues for society with lasting implications for our planet.
This morning, another major symbolic defeat for former President Donald Trump in the midterms, just as he's set to announce his 3rd run for the White House. Democrat Katie Hobbs narrowly beating Republican Kari Lake for Arizona governor. Lake had been one of Mr. Trump's most prominent allies in the midterms and one of the staunchest supporters of his false claims denying the results of the 2020 election.
Do we love this man or what?
Lake continuing to question her own race's results last night, tweeting, "Arizonans know BS when they see it." But there is no evidence of any fraud in the election, and the winner, Hobbs, ran on a message of trust in the electoral system. Ahead of his Mar-a-Lago speech, Mr. Trump's influence on the Republican Party is now under intense scrutiny, with many of the election-denying Republicans he supported falling short against Democratic opponents.
I think President Trump was an albatross on the electoral prospects of some of our candidates.
Overnight, the conservative Wall Street Journal editorial board writing that Democrats will be, quote, elated with Trump's announcement, adding, last week's elections showed that clinging to 2020 election denial, as Mr. Trump has, is a loser's game. It comes as the man who was once his most loyal defender now speaking out against the former president and his role in the January 6th insurrection.
The president's words were reckless, and his actions were reckless.
Former Vice President Mike Pence, widely expected to be planning his own 2024 campaign, now opposing his former boss.
Do you believe that Donald Trump should ever be president again?
I think that's up to the American people. But I think we'll have better choices in the future.
Despite these critiques, Mr. Trump's announcement of a third run for the White House will go forward today, according to a top advisor.
It's going to be a very professional, very buttoned-up announcement.
Mr. Trump has been recently ramping up attacks against perceived opponents, especially Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. But polling released by a conservative group opposing Mr. Trump shows DeSantis opening significant leads over the former president in key early primary states.
Well, Garrett, we're talking about 2024. What about 2022? We're still waiting to hear what happened with the House.
A week out from Election Day, we still don't have results in 14 races, Savannah. 11 of those are in California. Republicans only need to win 3 to take control of the House, so they're still the favorites. If they do so, Kevin McCarthy's got a pretty tricky path if he wants to become Speaker of the House. He needs to get 218 votes in the House. He's about to get a conservative challenger for that job, a 7-week slog potentially to decide who's going to control the gavel after we figure out who's going to control the House.
All right, Garrett, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.
My sister was doing some research on them after seeing them in our local park and hearing about them in school. While researching them, she realized there's a non-toxic solution you can make at home that can effectively kill the spotted lantern bug. She proceeded to make a mixture which was made up of water, apple cider vinegar, and a little Dawn dish soap. She then discovered multiple infested trees on our street and decided to give the solution a try by spraying them on the trees and the actual bug. She was not only doing something amazing for our environment, she was doing something that made her feel like a hero. Our neighbor across the street saw my sister spraying the trees with the solution and didn't know what she was doing. Usually, if you see a child that you know doing something that might not be good, you'll walk up to them or ask their parents to tell them and let them know what's going on. First of all, she wasn't on his property. And second of all, he knows us. We're his neighbor, and it's not like there's numerous other Black families on our street. It's not only racist what he did, but it was extremely traumatic for my sister. She sees all these other Black children and adults, on the news, being killed by police officers for doing nothing wrong. So when this call rolled up beside her, she was immediately frightened because she did nothing wrong. No kid should have to be stared in their own town on their own street. To my sister was extremely offensive, traumatic, and scarring towards my family. I can confidently assure you guys she will never forget this.
Our neighbor called the police and reported there's a little Black woman walking, spraying stuff on the sidewalks and trees. I don't know what the hell she's doing. It scares me though, and included that she was wearing a hoodie. It is sickening and scary to hear my neighbor use triggering words that have resulted in the death of too many Black and brown children and adults at the hand of the police.
How many lanternflies do you think you captured or killed? Did you count them at all? No, a lot, I think. And you used vinegar and apple cider vinegar and soap? And where did you find that out? Where did you find the recipe? On TikTok.
Thank you both for stepping up here. I know this is a difficult issue for many. I just want you to both know you have governing body support we can do to help make you feel comfortable.
Fox News' Jessica Dupnack has more now from the chief. She joins us live. And Jessica, remember from last week, we knew the chief was really looking at the policies. And did they follow the policies? What do we know right now?
Absolutely. I mean, really a major development, just thinking that this is only a few days old, this investigation. The chief saying just a little while ago that he is invoking his right before handing down the suspensions to 2 officers and a supervisor, and then putting another supervisor on desk duty, saying he has some concerns over the implementation of policy and how that situation escalated. Now, remember, this shooting took the life of a 27-year-old Detroit mother, Keasia Miller. We also learned today she was actually doing a Facebook Live video throughout this whole situation, and it does shed some light on the moments before her death.
Telling me that I did something illegal. I ain't do nothing illegal.
That's the voice of Keasia Miller on a Facebook Live video last week. She is the 27-year-old Detroit mother whose family says she has schizophrenia and was in a mental health crisis at her home on Detroit's west side. Detroit police say she was armed with a gun, knives, and a bat.
Why is the flashlight in my face?
You can see DPD officers surrounding her home after Keasia's mother called 911 to report her daughter hit her in the head and that Keasia attacked her own 7-year-old little boy who was bleeding. Here is audio of that 911 call. Her mother saying Keasia is flailing a gun.
You're gonna have to get her, please. I done had a stroke and a brain aneurysm. She done gave me blows to the head. And if that's the case, I'm gonna have to shoot my own child. Please come.
Officers knew Keasia's son and a 1-year-old daughter were upstairs and potentially in danger. We're told they tried to negotiate with her to see the kids, but it did not work. The next clip from the video on Facebook shows an officer pushing through the front door. After the video ends, Detroit Police Chief James White says there is a struggle for a gun Keasia had with her in the house. White says several officers enter behind, see the struggle, and fire 4 shots, killing the woman. Detroit Police with a major update on the case Monday afternoon.
I will be exercising my authority that effective immediately I am suspending 2 officers involved in this incident. In accordance with the charter of the City of Detroit, I will be referring this matter to the Board of Police Commissioners for determination on whether these officers should be suspended without pay. I will tell you it will be my recommendation that they are suspended without pay.
One of those suspended officers fired shots, the other did not. The chief also suspending a supervisor on scene, recommending without pay, and another supervisor there has been put on desk duty. The chief has concerns with the implementation of policy at that scene and the pacing in which it escalated.
At this stage of the investigation, I have concluded that at least some of the members involved in the situation should have had a better strategy.
Yeah, there is still an internal investigation ongoing here at DPD headquarters. That's still early. In addition to that, an independent review of the whole situation by Michigan State Police. Also, the family of Keasia Miller has retained high-profile attorney Jeffrey Feiger. We have spoke to their office. Nothing yet as far as a pending lawsuit, but they are definitely in talks with that family. Reporting live downtown Detroit, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Which is interesting, Jessica, because it was Keasia's family who called police. They dialed 911. They were very worried about the situation at hand, the kids that were at risk, and could be a life and death situation. And now it seems as if maybe they're not happy with how it was handled, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we played the 911 tape. That's audio from Keasia's mother saying that she may have to shoot her own daughter. Definitely a lot of fear, or they wouldn't have called police. And the chief said it wasn't a matter of whether or not police should be there or not. It's what happened next. And really, I think the pacing will be key here. There was only about 40 minutes between the time they got there and they breached the door. So that's possibly a little too fast per protocol, but there's a lot more to come. This is still very, very early.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for that update, Jessica.
Lavelle Davis Jr., Devin Chandler, and Deshaun Perry. The 3 young men were star football players for UVA. Talented, bright young men with great futures ahead of them, no doubt. Police say the student athletes were shot on board a bus just as they returned from a school field trip to see a play right here in D.C. The college football community is certainly mourning this incredible loss tonight. And we're also learning more about that suspect in this case. Our Adelia Gonzalez joins us now. And Dee, I understand you spoke with the suspect's father?
Pretty remarkable that he just spoke to reporters. The sound just coming into our newsroom just a short time ago. Chris Jones Sr. actually apologizing on behalf of his son. He says he last saw his son a month ago when he came home to do laundry. But what this dad revealed about his son is indeed eye-opening. 22-year-old Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. reportedly overcame a troubled childhood. Dad admits his son struggled after dad left the family. The father and son had no contact for 11 years. Still, the 22-year-old seemingly overcame his challenges, making the National Honor Society, attending UVA. But take a listen to the last conversation his father said he shared with his son.
He was real paranoid when
when I talked to him about something. He wouldn't tell me everything. He said some people was picking on him or whatever. He didn't know how to handle it. I just told him, no, just go to school. Don't pay him no mind. Do what you got to do. Come on, you only have one more year. My hearts go out to their family. I don't know what to say, except I'm sorry on his behalf.
You can hear it there, just a loss for words and apologizing on behalf of his son. And of course, that community still heartbroken over this loss. The suspect's father said he hasn't spoken to his son just yet, but he hopes to soon. And Zoe, I do have to tell you that I spent time today reaching out to the victims' families and friends. And I just spoke to Lavelle Davis's dad a couple of hours ago. He tells me his son was a remarkable young man. He described him as a diamond in the rough.
So heartbreaking. Delia, thank you.
A University of Virginia student is in custody, accused of fatally shooting 3 members of the school's football team and wounding 2 others. Charlottesville police say Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. shot and killed the football players. They were on a bus full of students last night as they were all returning to campus from a field trip to D.C. University officials say Jones is a student who played on the football team in 2018, his freshman year. The victims have been identified as Deshaun Perry, Devin Chandler, and Lavelle Davis Jr.
This is an unimaginably sad day for our community. The entire university community is grieving this morning. My heart is broken.
There's no word yet on a motive for the attack. Among the students on that bus last night was a pre-med student from the main line. One of those victims was a close friend of hers. In an exclusive interview, she spoke with our Aziza Schuler about what she saw and heard. Aziza?
Yuki, confused, heartbroken, and devastated, also helpless. Those are the words 19-year-old Ryan Lynch told me was what she was feeling after that deadly shooting. Now, in our exclusive conversation, she said this was a close, kind-hearted group of students.
And so we thought he was going to shoot everyone in the bus at that point.
Those are the chilling words from 19-year-old Ryan Lynch as she shares with Eyewitness News exclusively the devastating late-night phone call she made to her mother Sunday night, detailing how a perfect day quickly turned into a nightmare.
We had been in the same class the whole year, but this was just truly the bonding experience.
Lynch says Sunday evening about 25 of her classmates and a professor were returning from a field trip in D.C. when a student who police identified as Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. pulled out a gun as they were arriving back on campus.
Chris got up and pushed Lavelle, and then after he pushed him, he was like, you guys are always messing with me. He said something weird like that. But it was very bizarre because they didn't talk to him the whole trip.
Then Lynch describes the fear and fury.
And there just kept coming more and more gunshots. The shooter just kind of walked or like skipped off the bus when I saw him pass.
Police say Jones allegedly killed 3 UVA football players, one of them Lynch's friend.
He just had so many gunshots in him, and all the men had such a beautiful spirit to them. They always had a smile on their face. They never showed any level of exhaustion. So personable and kind.
We spoke with her mother, Robin Lynch, in Wynwood hours after receiving the frightening call no parent ever wants to hear.
I think it's a sad state of affairs that, our children have to live to some degree in fear of, the potential of something like this.
The university canceled Monday and Tuesday classes, as well as a basketball game, and the UVA president said that there will be counseling services available to all students. Reporting in Spring Garden, Aziza Schuler, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, Aziza, thank you. It kind of felt like being in her presence and just remembering just how powerful she was.
Family members tell us Candace Florence was a creator and a force to be reckoned with.
She was a dreamer. Dreamer meaning she wanted to make a difference.
Candace started a candle making business in 2020 called Glow Through It. Her candles feature an affirmation to empower those who burn them.
She said, don't go through it, glow through it.
Candace and her friend Jordan Marshall were both found dead in their Mexico City Airbnb last week. Candace's boyfriend was on the phone with her when she started getting sick. He then called the Airbnb host to do a welfare check, and authorities found Candace, Jordan, and Jordan's friend Cortez Hall inside.
Having to maneuver language barriers and travel and trying to, get his body home. It's been a lot.
Both Jordan and Candace's families caught flights to Mexico City. Jordan's mom, Jennifer Marshall, says they spent hours in a Mexico City police station. She says the U.S. Embassy was closed when they got there, and they couldn't even get into the Airbnb to get his things.
His wallet, his laptop, he took all those things.
Jordan was a teacher in New Orleans. His mom says he was very passionate and incredibly proud of his work as an educator.
We're just glad that, he did have that opportunity in his short time to make an impact.
Candace and Jordan's families say they hope no one else ever has to go through this.
Nobody took the effort to even try to notify us.
Seeing challenge as an opportunity to fight so others won't have to go through what they've experienced.
It's really just a waiting game and hoping that they reach out to us, which, as you can see, that was difficult for them to do initially, to even let us know that she wasn't here anymore.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
And today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said investigators have uncovered more than 400 Russian war crimes in Kherson. The discovery comes as jubilant crowds celebrate Russia's withdrawal from the southern city. CBS's Chris Livesay is on the ground in Ukraine with the latest.
The liberation of Kherson is destined to go down in history as one of the most decisive turning points of this war. Now, getting to the region requires a military escort. Along the way, most of the cars we saw were bombed out. The road itself was full of craters and certainly unexploded ordnance after months of fighting. Once you approach the city, locals cannot wait to see you, waving flags, singing songs. Ukrainian troops are being mobbed in jubilation, but it's not all smiles. There's still the sound of heavy artillery in the area. Russian forces are less than a mile from the city across the Dnieper River, where they blew up the bridge after retreating. The Ukrainian military says they've already found thousands of explosives left behind, as well as military vehicles they abandoned in haste. And they also leave behind a trail of trauma for these locals who have been living under occupation since the start of the war, some of them with Russians living inside their homes. Now, the owner of this house tells us 40 Russian soldiers occupied his mother's home just down the road. And when he told them they weren't welcome, they forced him at gunpoint to dig his own grave. And only at the last minute, after 2 nights of digging, did they change their minds not to execute him. Chris Livesay, CBS News, at the city limits of Kherson, Ukraine.
Terrifying moments here caught on camera inside a medical clinic in Buffalo, New York. A man with an assault rifle storms in, fires a shot. The clinic's security guard jumps into action, pouncing on the gunman. They struggle for control of that high-powered weapon.
I would be lying to you if I was to say to you that I was not scared for my life. And the first thing that flashed over my brain was my baby boy, who just turned 3 years old. I had him and I had the rifle. I was just saying, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And that's when he turned back and he had stopped fighting for a while. And that's when the other security guard was coming down the stairs.
Both security guards were then able to shove the gunman through the clinic door and out into the sidewalk. They were then able to get control of that AR-15 assault rifle and hold the man until police got there. No word on what he was doing in that building. Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel and download the ABC7 Los Angeles streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku to watch on your TV.
If Snoop Dogg is going to say that, if Stacey Dash and if a little Bow Wow was going to say that.
So if y'all think I'm joking, if y'all saying there Roller go trying to scare us, there he go fear mongering. Oh, and let me go ahead and say, y'all can go to that little reparations rally on Saturday, November 5th. Y'all ain't getting nothing, not even H.R. 40, if they control the House and the Senate. Zero. You ain't getting H.R. 39, 40, 41, 42, 45. You can rewrite it all day. You can have Darity. You can have Yvette, Antonio. They can do whatever they want. You will get nothing. Because not one Republican even remotely supports reparations. Then what y'all gonna tweet about? Oh, and lastly, you ain't getting nothing black specific. But by all means, don't vote and see what happens. If you are white, black, Latino, Asian, African American, if you're progressive, if you actually care about the future of America for your children, you better defeat every single MAGA-loving Republican who's on the ballot. Sir. Yeah. Because they don't have any love for us. And vote like your ancestors died for. Zoom it out. Zoom it out.
Amen.
I wore the shirt for a reason.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces.